Hi everyone, Bandana here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a little preview of Nemesis 3. Many thanks to Eugen for the key. And hooyah! The seals are finally in. That should get some of you Americans excited, right? Even I'm excited that the seals are in. 6th Infantry brings a few interesting new toys to the table. And the 157th also has some fun little toys as well, including the Berg. I don't know why, I really love the sound of that unit. The name, just Berg. I have no idea why, I just really like the name of that unit. But let's have a look at the 6th Infantry first, and just have a little look through some of those units in there. So, nothing to stand out in the logistics tab. You got standard supplies and everything, and you got plenty of supply there. However, look at this chunky boy. Carrying a shipping container. That is beefy, right? I like that. It's a nice new model. But nothing else new in there, so let's move on. Infantry tab. Loads to choose from here. You get a lot of choice when it comes to the infantry. Plenty of the usual in terms of support weapons. So you've got 2 sets of the 7.62mm. Obviously one is NG. You've got some forward deployable 12.7 mils. That's quite nice. I'd be sticking them in there. And you've got the Mark 19 40mm grenade launcher in there. Some fire team in there. The leader, the law, and a dragon. With the dragon 2. Important to notice that. Whether it's the dragon 1 or the dragon 2 with these units. Obviously lots of Cook Vs as transports. Got the usual array of engineers and engineer commander in there. Tank hunters. New squad. Quite tasty. Obviously we don't have a lot of these twin rocket launcher or twin RPG anti-tank units in the NATO side, so it's nice to see one of those rolling in again. I quite like these units, especially around forests and things. And obviously, you know, AT4 is pretty good. NG rifles, leader and law. Nothing too exciting there. But they do have the option of coming in the M113A1 Dragon, though. Notably, only a Dragon 1 in this case. Jeep with the M40 on it. Nothing too exciting there. They're okay. I'm not a huge fan of the M40, admittedly. Got the M40 as a standard squad there. We've also got the ITO. TOW 2, forward deployable. Important to note. And the TOW 2A, which isn't forward deployable. There's a few forward deployable units in here. Worth taking note of that, because with it being quite a light division, it's good to get into positions early and hold the line, so to speak. Because you're not going to have a huge amount of pushing power in terms of tanks and stuff like that. Indeed, you're also not going to get loads of IFVs and stuff, so... USAF. Security Patrol. And the security, you got an extra Stinger Basic in there, so you got a little bit more anti-air to play with in here, with the security and police trait, military police trait, so that's quite nice to have. And you've got a couple of nice transports here. You've got military police Cook V, and you've got this Peacekeeper, which I just think is a very fun little vehicle. Look at that, it looks so old. But it's got the lights on it, but I bet they don't flash in game. That would be very disappointing. Wish they did. And of course, USAF security. That is a big, chunky squad. Quite a bit of firepower, actually. Light Rifles Command. Viper. The new weapon. 70mm heat. 14 pen, not amazing, but I don't think it's a bad squad overall for the price. Got the Light Rifles Law in there as well, with the Sniper Rifle, and the Light Rifles with the M67. And probably the nicest choice here, the Light Rifles with the AT4. What can you say? It's an AT4, right? It's one of the best options for anti-tank capability in terms of short range anyway. USMC security. Obviously sporting that Resolute trait because they are Marines or, you know, maritime or naval or whatever you want to call it, depending on what country you're in. All of them will get the Resolute trait. Again, with the AT4 as well. So another nice squad. Slightly smaller, but it's a good price in my opinion for that squad. Smoke grenades there as well. And then for getting into those forward positions once more, you've got the airborne leader. You've got the airborne with the AT4 again, and you've got airborne dragons in there. Obviously, same squads that you find in the 82nd, but nice to see them making a resurgence in this division as well. And then the new boys, the Navy SEALs. Obviously, Special Forces, Shock, and Airborne come in the M35. Colt Commandos, M60, AT4, and Satchel Chargers. I mean, you can't really go wrong, can you? 9-man squad. Pretty chonky for a Special Forces team. Only coming as elite, as you would expect. Wouldn't expect them to come any lower than that. Same as the SAS. I like the fact they've sort of got very individual outfit on as well. I wish I could show them better on here, but there's no way to hide the UI on this particular screen. Anyhow, artillery tab. There's nothing too exciting here. You've got, you know, usual mortars. You've got 2 sets of 105mm. Obviously, this one has 14k range, so that's quite nice. But, yeah, just as is. But, of course, thankfully, you do have the trusty 155mm in there as well. Tank tab, well, you don't have any tanks in here. You've got some NG ITOs. You've got some NG ITV, which also has the ITO, just, you know, 12 instead of 4. And then you've got the Humvee tow, which is probably the better here because it's got the tow 2. You're going to be relying a lot on ATGMs with this division. Recon tab. Obviously, those Alaskan squads coming in now. So the Alaskan snipers come in a range of vehicles. You do get the M151A2 with the machine gun on there and a recon trait. Alaskan scouts, which have a very nice vehicle in here. I quite like this one. The NG M113A1 ACAV, or ACAV, whatever you want to call it. Look at the amount of machine guns on this thing. That is going to tear up some infantry. I quite like this. Alaskan Cav Scouts, again, have the option of the ACAV there with all the machine guns on. Recoilless rifle. So you've got a little bit of anti-tank capability there. Nothing for the Alaskan Scouts. Nothing for the snipers. Scouts. Standard Scout Squad, we've seen them in lots of divisions. Nothing special there. Pathfinders. Yes, new. These guys with the law, unfortunately, nothing more exciting. Do have some smoke grenades, though, if they want to get out of dodge. Just a little squad. Nothing. They're not the most exciting squad, but they do have forward deployment. As do the Alaskan snipers, but then all the snipers have forward deployment, I think, don't they? And then this dinky little thing. I always think the M48 is such a cute little tank. See the M48 ACAV there. And again, she's got a range of machine guns on it. And that's a coaxial machine gun. So that will follow the main tank gun. And then you got 2 extra machine guns on top. Decent amount of firepower. But yeah, it is NG, so it's unfortunately reservists. I wouldn't be sending it into a fight. LRS make an appearance. Always nice to see the LRS in. Obviously forward deployable. And they do get the Recon Humvee as well as an option. Or the Recon Humvee with an AGL. And then this bad boy. The Recon A10 goes brrr. Yeah. The GAU 8. This thing, pretty nasty. Pretty nasty. Obviously you got the Hydra rockets, but this with its 6 penetration is pretty nasty as well. and to be a recon unit. We'll see some fun in games with that, I'm sure. Anti-air tab, nothing particularly exciting here. You've got plenty of stingers to choose from, including the airborne stinger, so you can get up close and personal to the front with all of your other forward deployable units. And then you've got some VADs and the trusty Eyehawk. And you do get 2 cards of the Eyehawk, thankfully, so you've got a bit of cover there. Helicopters, pretty minimal here. Cobra, Hog, and a Tow Cobra. I mean, it's fair enough, isn't it? We'll note that the AH-1S Cobra is unique here, and it gets the 40mm grenade launcher on there as well. But otherwise, just common helicopters. Now, air tab, obviously there's some new stuff here. So we've got Corsair. Not a bad little jet, 20% ECM across the board, obviously. Comes in Rocket HE Cluster and AT variants. So that's pretty nice. You've got the Intruder coming in with some unguided, well, quite a few unguided napalm bombs. The Intruder Seed, always nice. And then something a little bit fancier. The EA-6B Prowler. So this is your Seed and Electronic Warfare plane. So this one's pretty beefy. Electronic Warfare and the ability to take out Radar AA. Yeah. It comes at a price, but yeah. Going to be quite fun to play with that one. Not going to be great if you don't turn your Radar AA on and off. A-10, obviously, standard anti-tank. And of course the F-15C Eagle in there. Overall, I think the 6th Infantry has a reasonable amount of new stuff and some interesting new units in there. Especially when it comes to infantry and your recon in particular. Air tab also has some decent units in there. But it's obviously very lacking when it comes to tanks. And I wonder how people will play this when it comes to pushing. I think pushing with this division will be difficult. Without tanks and without having access to IFVs, you're kind of quite limited. So I'm curious to see how people will play this in ranked in particular and in tournaments and stuff. Because I feel like you're going to have to get into a position and lock it down. And I think pushing with them is going to be a challenge. So we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, the 1v1 pros will know better than me, but I'm curious to see. But I think this will be a very fun one in team games. I think it's got some fun units in there, and I am really looking forward to trying the Navy SEALs out in some 10v10s. See if I can get round the back and do some Special Forces ops with them. Very difficult in the 10v10, but obviously it can be quite fun. It used to be easier in Wargame, funnily enough. You used to get stuff round the back in Wargame 10v10s a lot, well, especially the proper tactical 10v10s where you only had like 5 or 6 units on the go at a time. Anyhow, let's have a look at the 157th. Okay, 157th. Few interesting bits and pieces in here. So, first up are these new little vehicles. Look at these things. They look old, but they also look pretty cool. Look at it. Looks like a camper van that's been like armored up. It's got like the high bit with the windows at the top. I don't know why, I just really like these units. This one looks in effect silly, but I also kind of like it. I'm convinced there will be one of these somewhere that someone has converted into a camper van. Somewhere in the world this will exist. I'm going to go and Google it. If I find one, I'll put the picture in the video. But, yeah. Otherwise, nothing too exciting here. Just your standard stuff. They're in plenty of other divisions, these vehicles. Infantry tab, on the other hand. So, we've got the new Res Maxim guys with the 7.62. We've got the 12.72 in there. And obviously another 12.7mm. But this one can target helicopters. That's the difference there. Can target helicopters. It is classed as AA. Obviously, it's, you know, the same effect against ground targets, but it can also aim up. This is a special upgrade version. As you can see, it's on a different tripod, so you can aim upwards. Standard PKM. There is Okorana. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but there you go. Fun little squad. Obviously, they have the security trait, but they are, however, reservists. Sporting some slightly older weaponry. And the VMF, who have the resolute trait rather than reservist. No anti-tank, but a big, chunky infantry squad, 14 man. With some nice black uniforms in there as well. Commander Chura, we all know them, we've seen them before. As have we also seen these guys. They're also in the KDA. The Res Pulmets. Obviously, same as the other Pulmets, really. They're just reservist. They have the option of their new fun little vehicle. Reservisti Commander. Reservisti. And also the Prizviniki. Pronouncing these horribly wrong, but never mind. Anyhow, more reservist squads. These guys obviously sporting some very old things. You got the Mosin in there. That is, yeah, that's quite an old piece of kit. And the RPG-2. 7 VM for the reservisti at least. The Res B11. The B11 recoilless rifle. I don't think that's terrible with its pen and stuff. But it fires a little bit on the slow side. Lower end ATGM. No fancy ATGMs here. Res Sapri and Sapri LPO. Again, we got lots of reservists here. Monstraki Commander. Do have the option of the BMP here. Monstraki, the BMP-1, and the Monstraki in the BTR-60. Obviously, these guys coming in with some higher pen RPGs, so, I mean, let's be fair, a card of each of these is probably going into the deck. Otherwise, vehicle choices, as you will have noticed as we've been going through, pretty limited. Nothing too exciting there. So, you know, your BMPs and decent vehicles are coming from the, well, 3 cards of Motostrelki that you've got. So it's not a lot. Artillery tab. Lots of options here. Lots of options. 82mm mortar, 120mm mortar. You've got the 152mm reservist D1. Can also act as a tank gun as well as artillery. Standard D30, 122mm, which again can be a tank gun. Got the 100mm again, the BS3. A little bit dated, but again can be used as a tank gun and artillery. Got the B4M. Look at this chunky thing. 203mm. But there's something chunkier coming in a second. But that is pretty chunky, right? This is what I mean. This division has some interesting units, in particularly in the artillery tab. We aren't even at my favourite one yet. So then we've got the BR5M, 280mm. A very, very chunky boy. Look at that thing. Pretty short range. But yeah. Obviously, can be used as a tank gun. High HE damage. And here we are. The Berg. I just love the name of this one. The Berg. What a name for a unit. It's huge. And it has a decent rate of fire. I really like this unit. And I just really like its name, Berg. And then, of course, the BM-24 with the 240mm rockets. We'll have a little go of that in-game in a minute. Tank tab. So, lots of tanks, lots of old tanks. Obviously, to the great pleasure of the SD2 players, it's the IS-2M. Very, very old tank. Lots of machine guns on it, though. Not a lot of armor. Malyukta's in there. You've got a very old KSM 25 100mm. KSM 65 it says up there, but the actual gun is the 25. 16 pen isn't terrible. Not the best range. Pretty decent rate of fire. T55 AK. Obviously reservist. The T54B, again reservist. Obviously not the best pen on these. Armor's so-so. T55A, a little bit better pen, but again it is reservist. And the T55A OBR 81, again pretty dated. A little bit less pen on that one. Does have smoke though, so it is a bit more expensive, but it has better range even though the pen is dropped, and it does have smoke, so kind of a trade-off with the price, isn't there? TR55 standard there. T55 AM1K, smoke, decent range, and T55 AM1. Get your anti-tank missile in there, so that'll definitely be going in the deck. That's the best tank since it's got the missile, and a decent missile at that. The 2,800 meter range, but lots of chaff and pushing capability with these tanks, I guess, depending on what you're going up against. Make use of smoke, perhaps. Recon tab, pretty sparse here. New helicopter. Look familiar? Yeah. Razvedka, standard Razvedka. BTR 48. New to this division with that very nice ZPU-2 strapped to the back. So a bit of anti-air capability. Razvedka. More reservists. But you can have them come in the BTR 40. No anti-air gun on that one though. And then obviously the BRM-1K, pretty standard stuff. Anti-air tab. Strela 3. Look at this thing. It looks old-fashioned, doesn't it? It just looks it. I don't know how I feel about that. The ZU-23. The S60 57mm. That is chunky again, and look at the shells on it. Very chunky. And of course the KS30 130mm anti-aircraft gun. It's like going back to your flak guns of World War II, obviously. Not the longest ranges for aircraft, but at least it's not radar. Can fire as well as a tank gun. The Ural with the ZPU-4 strapped to the back. And then, of course, the Krug M3. Look at this bad boy. The missiles are huge on it, aren't they? Decent range as well, 6,000 meters. I do love a Krug. Helicopter tab, very limited. Mi-8 MT. Mi-8 TV. Nothing to write home about. And then the air tab. Couple of interesting units. So MiG-23, you've got the Su-15 in there, unique to this division. Lots of air-to-air missiles. And the AA-2. You will notice that some of these are not things we've seen before. Okay, and the air tab, well, MiG-23, pretty standard there. Do have the new Su-15. 2 versions of the anti-air roll. This one in particular obviously having some decent range missiles. Su-25 in rocket, HE, cluster and AT rolls. And then the T-10K3, which is probably the big one for this. Look at this bad boy. This is one of those jets that I just really love the shape of. There's some jets I just think that is really nice to look at. And this is one of them. Very sleek design. Obviously, again, air-to-air capability. So you don't have any good bombers in this division. You've got some decent infantry, but it's a lot of reservist stuff. Tanks, you've got a lot of them, but again, it's a lot of reservist and a lot of sort of chaff. Artillery, you've got some cool, interesting units. Air tab's not great. Anti-air tab, not great. Recon, not great. I mean, yeah, I think for this division, I think it's going to perform reasonably well in ranked because of the amount of tanks it can throw about and cheap infantry. But not sure it'll be S tier. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't think so, though. But I'll let the ranked pro players decide that. But there's a lot of fun toys in here. I think that's the big thing with this division. If you're wanting to play around with some fun toys, then this is the division to get. Especially with these fun artillery pieces. The Berg. I have no idea why I like the name so much. I really like the name. But that is a big, chunky unit. Now, I was potentially going to stick in a little tour around the new map, which is Cliff, but I'm not 100% sure if it's going to release with Nemesis 3. I assume it is as a reinforcement pack, but since Eugen haven't specifically said that anywhere that I can see, I'm not sure it's not still covered by the NDA, so I won't stick it in there. But thank you very much for joining me. I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and hopefully people will be getting their hands on this next week, question mark?